うるさいやつ、その口を封じては題名逃がすもの。まだついてこられる。サンダークラー、やつを潰せ。出力制限開始。サンダードライバーロード完了。題名とともに落ちろ。この技で終わらせてやる。逃がすもの。どこを見てる。いいんだ、解けた。これだ。
Oh boy, today's Entropy Effect day, and I have been waiting for a while to talk about this game, because as absurd as this title is, I believe in it 100%. This is amazing. This is terrific. This is fantastic.
This is art, Mr. White.
Actually, Jesse, it's just basic ingredients.
Okay, got to break this down into two parts, the BlazBlue and the Entropy Effect. BlazBlue, for those who don't already know, is an anime-style fighting game made by Arc System Works, directed by Toshimichi Mori, and is one of the most anime of all anime fighting games. We're talking about bloody sibling feuds, fighting gods, 1,000-year-old lollies, time travel, parallel universes, gender bending, and all of the obtuse fighting game mechanics and gauges you can think of for a franchise made in the 2010s. It was unadulterated, unfiltered, completely different from the ASW we have now, more focused on shifting brisket merch and redesigning costumes, and doing literally anything except making cinematic instant kills.
She will perform finisher deep dive automatically with 50% tension gauge if the opponent is below a certain health threshold. This move always defeats the opponent when triggered.
Impressive. Very nice. Let's see Paul Allen's card.
Oh yeah, they're also making whatever the hell this is.
Miss Kokonoe, what were you gonna do to Mr. Ragna the Blood Edge after you put him to sleep?
Ah, yes. Well, no reason not to tell you. First, I intended to take his...
Inferno Divider!
And put it in a...
Carnage Scissors!
Maybe a little...
Gauntlet Hades!
Two? My goodness, I can only imagine what his...
Hell's Fang!
Will...
Dead Spike!
Often I sit and yearn.
Cool soundtrack though. All cards on the table. Despite having a bias towards BlazBlue for being my first ASW title, I have not consumed a lot of the franchise's later material. The mechanics got too obtuse, the lore too deep, and the company expected me to shell out for all these different products just to keep up with the game's ever-expanding universe.
Transmedia means across media. The producers can sell multiple media forms that appeal to many types of audiences.
Let's not get episodic, okay? Old-timer? Beginning, middle, end. Facts, details, condense, plot, tell it.
And then on top of all that, it's still primarily a fighting game-based franchise, which essentially means that games are more competitive devices than true video games.
Well, why you boring me? I'm right.
And I say that with all the love and nostalgia in the world. I remember fighting against my friends online in shitty netcode, constantly bashing myself against a wall of the truly skilled in this genre, and having a good time doing it. Side note, just throwing it out there, BlazBlue Central Fiction did eventually get rollback netcode, so you can enjoy high quality matches with your friends till the end of Discord. Moving on to Entropy Effect, what is it? Well, Entropy Effect is an action roguelike licensed by ASW, but developed and published by 91 Act.
Who?
Its story is something cyberpunky, something dystopia. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I sided with the authoritarian AI police and ended up accidentally crushing some sort of human resistance group or some shit. Look. This is not a critique of the writing on offer here. There is an AI waifu voice that guides you, and I'm on record saying I love that shit. But it's pretty hard for me to care about any of that when it's up against this. Damn, that was a good run. Who are you?
Sign here.
Sure, whatever. Okay, this time I'm gonna make Noel into a light spear machine gun. Like normally, I would feel way worse about completely dismissing a game's story, if not for just how amazing the combat system and roguelike gameplay is. And that story over there is getting in the way. So like I said earlier, it's a roguelike action game. You go into rooms, fight bad guys, get random power-ups, fight bosses, and I know, we're gamers. We've been here before, so what could possibly be so awesome that it has me literally throwing the game's story out of a window for? Well, here's where that juicy ASW license comes into play, because as hinted to by the very title, you play as members of the cast of BlazBlue.
Other breaking news. Water. Wet.
Okay, maybe you don't understand how significant that is, so lean in. Let me tell you a little game dev secret. Everything you like about action combat, and I mean everything, comes from fighting games. Movement, hit stun, dodges, parries, throws, platforms, projectiles, it all goes back to this baby. Because this is the crucible. This is all a fighting game has, and for 50 years, talented developers have been squeezing every last drop of enjoyment that you can get from two brothers squaring up in a box.
He's out of line, but he's right.
And from that, endless discoveries were made in the art of making punching another person satisfying. And every game from Donkey Kong to Devil May Cry to DoorDash Delivery Simulator have benefited from their research. Suffice to say, this game feels really good to play. And I have to give some big props to the developers, because up until now I wondered if a roguelike fighting game would even work as a concept. But these devs nailed it perfectly. You start out a run as whatever BlazBlue character you selected. The catch is, you don't start with the character's entire moveset. These actions instead are randomly unlocked as you progress through a run. Blasphemy, I might hear some of you say. That's like Ryu not having Hadouken, or Ken not having his Shoryuken, or Chun-Li not having her thighs.
Roll with it.
But it works. Not only because the character's normal attacks feel very satisfying to land hits with, but also because you don't just unlock skills that you already know and love. You also unlock upgrades to those skills handcrafted by the devs who clearly have both love for the franchise as well as an eye to create fun and interesting new mechanics. Like my favorite crazy cat girl Taokaka, who starts off with some basic slashing attacks, but gets potentials to unlock some of her more mobile actions in her fighting game kit. And then these potentials get upgrades that have the devs freeing themselves from the confines of canon abilities, giving her crazy things like creating chainsaw energy rings and summoning tiny cat girls like Tron summoning serve bots. It gets really crazy and really fun. Interestingly enough though, Taokaka is actually an example of the devs going back and reworking a character to be more crazy, as some players complained that her original incarnation wasn't nearly as creative as the others, and while I did like the original Taokaka, they were right, especially when compared to a character like I mean, you start out a run as a somewhat basic samurai character with a sword beam that freezes enemies sometimes. But by the end, you're dashing on the classic ice car, cutting enemies dozens of feet away from you like you're an ice-infused Sukuna, doing counterattacks because, aside from lore reasons, why the fuck not? and all this while freezing everything from the enemies to the stage to time itself.
Yes! Strip, Bayonetta, strip!
He's probably one of, if not the most fun character in the game. And crazy enough, I still wouldn't call him the most busted. I'd give that crown more to Kokonoe, who can turn the arena into a Helldivers map with only a handful of upgrades. On top of randomly unlocking the character's potentials, you also get a selection of elemental themed upgrades that can be added to attacks, skills, dashes, your assist call, and even a summon ability that triggers passively.
Go, my children.
If this video was made back when I first played the title, I'd say that the elemental upgrades vary in usefulness, but as the game has been updated, the devs have done a pretty good job buffing up some of the weaker elements so that they can compete with the big boys. Lightning and ice are, in my opinion, the heavy hitters of all the elements. Ice, because of on top of having a stacking slow, also is the one element that flat out increases the damage of your actual attacks. And lightning?
Lightning is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
If you have played other roguelikes, you pretty much understand that almost every game has synergies, or upgrade combinations, and Entropy Effect is no different. Once you have upgraded a slot fully, it can plus ultra itself depending on what other elements you have. There's some cool stuff like light spears turning into ice spears, or the bubble spitting pufferfish also spitting out poison bombas. And then you have lightning. There are even some unique character synergies related to elemental upgrades, like Shadow Dash granting characters a short-lived black clone that damages enemies on contact. But S has an upgrade that causes an explosion to appear whenever she does a dash. See what I'm getting at? The last really standout feature of the game, to me, is what happens at the end of a run. Once you have defeated the last boss, or more likely died trying, you can save your run as an avatar that can be used in the future, granting a recharging assist skill based on the saved character, as well as giving you instant access to 2 elemental abilities selected from the previous attempt. This adds so much replayability to this game, as not only are you hunting for all the potential unlocks and hidden synergies for a character, not only are you trying out different elemental combos to see what mayhem you can cause, not only are you pushing for a higher and higher score, you're doing all that and building a collection of avatars that can make future runs easier and sometimes allow for elemental combos that are unavailable in a normal run. And on top of all that, the saves can then be used in challenge modes and boss rush modes, and this game has just so much stuff crammed into it, it's insane. Now, at the time of making this video, Entropy Effect has 14 playable characters, accounting for DLC. Ragna, Jean, Noelle, Lambda, S, Taokaka, Kokonoe, Hakumen, Mai, Hibiki, Hazama, Bullet, and Icy. Yeah, this game is accepting guest characters. Hashtag Kunagi for Entropy Effect. But focusing on the main cast, you're looking at 13 out of the 36 BlazBlue characters, and supposedly the developers are full speed ahead with getting the entire cast in the game. Fingers crossed that Makoto is the next female character, but after Bullet, the devs did reveal that they do a male-female back and forth when it comes to upcoming DLC. Seems like the community is hungering for Azrael, but that is after my time. I personally aspire for the purity of Bang Shishigami, complete with theme song power-up. A man can dream. And speaking of dreams, time to talk about the other reason I'm hyping up this game so much. I think that 91 Act has cracked the code here. Excuse me while I shift into business Rotomai real quick, for the one dev out there that watches my videos. This formula is an opportunity for fighting games to use the assets that they have already created, the character sprites, the animations, the special effects, and experience full creative freedom without being held back by concerns about balance versus another player.
Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power.
Speaking of Smash, even Sakurai, the man behind such wondrous innovations in anti-competitive tech like tripping, lamented about how difficult it was to balance additional abilities in a fighting game environment. This sort of thing definitely needs to be PvE in order to fully bloom, the way that Entropy Effect has. Also,
what will you have after 500 years?
This also greatly increases replayability. No one is playing Arcana hard anymore. But toss in a roguelike mode with weird combos and synergies, and I believe someone is always going to be buying it on a Steam sale. Look at it, look at some of these goofy and fun animations that are sadly locked away in the Discord Fighter archives now. This is why my title is what it is. From the second I played Kokonoe, a character added after I had already walked away from the franchise and still had tons of fun raining down mechanical hell on my enemies, I knew that this was not just nostalgia fueling my love for the game. It was an exciting new way to enjoy characters long after the, let's call it, golden era of the games they originated from had passed. I believe that every fighting game franchise would benefit from at least a small side team developing an Entropy Effect like mode. Hell, to bring things full circle, I'd have to admit, maybe I'd be willing to eat the brisket if Strive was packaged with a game mode like this one on the side. Okay, business road am I off. This game is just really goddamn sick. It's not perfect, the localization on abilities can be quite the headache to understand. Sometimes the game puts you in a laser grid setup that makes you feel like Ada in Resident Evil and not in a good way. And some hidden effects seem to be truly unlisted, meaning that OCD Rotomai stays up at night wondering if he really did unlock all the Kokonoe upgrades. But all of that is nitpicking. The game is damn near flawless in my opinion. So flawless in fact that I bet you wouldn't believe that despite calling Jin one of the most fun characters in the roster with all the coolest abilities and upgrades, surprise surprise,
Wait a minute. I hate
Jin Kisaragi.
I hate that little Nissan Ultima riding bastard, and I hate that motherfucking chain gliding Michael Jackson wannabe Hazama too. I have almost a dozen runs saved between the two of them, and Hazama currently holds my highest score. Good gameplay can in fact overcome conditional hatred, but I've spent enough time rambling about how much I like this game. If you are a casual enjoyer of fighting games or were an ASW fan who fell off over the years, I really think you should take a look at BlazBlue Entropy Effect. It's a really good roguelike and, at least in my opinion, the direction that fighting games should be pursuing in their quest to offer more appealing single-player side dishes on top of their competitive main courses. 10 out of 10, I look forward to anything and everything the devs plan to add to this title, and I think you will too. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Mata ne.